You are looking live. I've always wanted to say that. Actually, it's not live. It's going to be tape delayed by the time you get to this. It may be 4 days tape delayed. Who cares? This is Real Boxing Talk, talking real boxing with real boxing people. We're back once again. We are in, I believe, year 3 now of this, if I'm not mistaken. So we've been at this for quite some time. So the 9 of you that have been watching since then, you get a free penny. Oh, it's up to 10 now.
Oh.
The thumb is locked, bro. The thumb is locked.
Oh, I see. So they're going to the left instead of anyway. Here's where we're at right now. We had an interesting bout over the last weekend, which I'm going to let the guys that don't brag about themselves because let's just say they called it right, and not many other people did, if anyone else called it right. So, John, you brought it up. Go ahead and brag about yourself, and let Charles brag about himself as well.
Well, I'm not going to say much because Charles was the one who mentioned it first, and I got his vibe, and I went with him. Now, I might have been leaning that way, but listening to Charles, because I just thought that the thinking was that this was my thinking, that why he would get the stoppage because of his last fight with all the criticism. We're talking about Shakur Stevenson here. Mm-hmm. That's why I thought that he was going to fight more aggressively. He was going to, instead of, because he kind of lays back a little bit. He's not a knockout artist. Everyone knows it. He just beats you up for how long it takes.
Right.
So I thought, you know what, this time, if he gets Jamel Herring hurt, he's going to go for it. And that's pretty much what happened. And yeah, we got the round wrong only by 1 or 2. But I'm not bragging. It's not bragging if you can back it up, Frank. The immortal Dizzy Dean said that. And so did Muhammad Ali, I'm sure. But he did it. It was I told you I got a man crush on this guy, and I was just so impressed with his performance. And I'm not going to say anymore because I want Charles to get in. But I wrote an article about it because I don't know if you guys noticed. I'm just going to say this. I'm going to get out of the way and let Charles talk about it. Is that did you guys notice? A lot of fighters are calm when they get in the ring, but did you guys see how relaxed, easy he was when he got in the ring? I mean, he was just a guy walking out in the park, and I thought, oh man, there is no way in the world this kid is going to lose. He is so confident, and he's a little cocky, but that's okay. He knows how good he is, and he's that good. Mm-hmm. He's that good. He's getting closer to that word that I don't use very much. Great. That's all I'm saying. Go ahead, Charles.
Charles, in the first, I'll be generous. Let's say the first 90 seconds. At that point, you say, well, gee, this is a foregone conclusion. It's like Herring's putting forth an effort and he's got a chance.
Yeah, I mean, 90 seconds is a bit quick because, I mean, Herring is still the champion, right? He still had pop. And I think probably was after, for me, it was probably because I wanted to watch the first round. And then I wanted to go into the second round to see whether or not this was real, right? And then after you get past in the middle of that first round, you move on and you start to see where Stevenson starts to tag him in those certain areas and repeatedly.
Right.
Then at that point that, yeah, he sees something. But not take away from Herring, because Herring he has pop and he was moving, but it was just one of those things. I think we start to really see how solid and how good Stevenson is and can be. Because at this juncture, everybody's saying, well, he's not fought anybody. We say the same thing about some of the folks. Anyway, Terrence Crawford. Anyway, but when you start to see a guy put it together on this stage, and it's not that he's super cocky, he really believes in what he's doing. And like he said, you guys put it to the point where he said the media said something that pissed me off, basically. You said I should have done more. And, he went directly to Tim Bradley to let him know, thank you for motivating me. But he said, y'all said I was running. I'm not backing up from this guy this time. I know his championship on the line. Crawford's been in his corner and everything, but I'm not backing up. I'm going to show you today, if nothing else, we don't know what the future holds, but I'm going to show you right now, this is how great I can be. And I think that was a moment where he stopped the world and said, I'm focused, I'm balanced, I understand this, and I'm going after it. And I think that is what we saw from him. We don't know what that's going to continue on, but we know for that moment, he was great.
Well, and yeah, John didn't use the word, and you did, and I'm going to use it too. I get to the point where I'll make a couple of other sports references. The year that Barry Bonds hit, 360 something or whatever, and like, okay, you can't throw him a strike. You can't throw him a ball. You can't throw the ball near him. Just walking. That's the only chance you have. The greatest show on turf. Wow. How easy was that? That guy's open, that guy's open, that guy's open. Boom, boom, boom. Just moved the ball down the field. No problem at all. It was so easy. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be this, because we said the same about Lomo last year. And then someone said, maybe not as easy as you think it is. But when you see something like this, you know, wow, that was, and again, we've all said Herring is a tough, solid, seasoned fighter. Mm-hmm. He had no chance that I could see. And I said 90 seconds. Yeah, okay, I'll give you the first round. What adjustments do you make after that? There was nothing he could do. It was kind of scary. And again, we said the same thing about Lomo. Is it to the point where, John, he had a great night, or he's a great fighter?
Well, to me, I'm not going to say he's a great fighter yet, but he had a great night. He fought great, no doubt about it. He proved his point. People were saying he was boring. Some still said he was boring. I mean, I don't know what else he's supposed to do. There's always going to be critics, and I'm sure Shakur understands that. It reminds me, I mentioned between Charles and me with Floyd Mayweather and Andre Ward, every show we mention him, but he reminded me a little bit about when Andre was in his prime and people were saying he was boring.
Sure.
But all he was doing was winning every round, just like Shakur. He wasn't knocking anybody out either. He was just beating guys up, and that's what Shakur did. And this time he did not back up, really. I don't know, maybe once or twice he might have stepped back a little bit. He just came right at Herring, and the way he managed to hit him, you know, his sense of distance is amazing for such a young kid. I mean, that's a God-given ability. He does not miss much. When you go like this, he comes around. I mean, he's a great boxer. I slipped. He is. I think he is a great boxer. I'm just whatever. That's fine. I mean, okay, I'll just say he's a great performer. But I said in my article he was rising to greatness. Is he there yet? Maybe he is. I don't even know anymore. But on that night, I'll say it myself this way. On that night, he was great. Mm-hmm. And you're right, Frank. Jamel Herring had no answer, even though his corners were saying, you got to rough him up. And when he did get close and stuff, he did manage to hit him a few times. But Shakur showed that he can fight on the inside too. You know, he showed they didn't think he had the dog in him. That's what they kept saying. Matt kept saying, and Jamal, we don't think he has a dog. Really? Where did you get that from? Because he doesn't put guys away when he gets them hurt. That's the only thing I can think. Again, I'm sorry, I'm being very repetitive, but I have to. That was said about Mr. Ward when he fought Alan Green. Alan Green said, I'm going to get him on the inside and beat the crud out of him. It was the other way around. I'll never forget when Alan Green was walking back to his corner at the third round after they just stood there in the corner, and Andre Ward, bam, bam. He walked back to his corner and looked at Andre Ward like, who is that guy? You know, so you better not assume something with somebody who is that kind of talent. And Shakur Stevenson has that kind of talent.
Well, Charles, now I'm looking at the TV screen and I'm yelling to Herring, you got to turn it into a brawl. Got to turn it into a brawl. You got to turn it into a brawl. Was it that he didn't know that, or he couldn't do that?
I think it's to the point where he couldn't do it, because when he was going back to his corner after round 3, 4, whatever, and Bomac is saying to him, telling the instructions, don't forget this. He's telling him whatever. It reminded me, not so much that bad, but like when Wilder was on the stool and they're shooting these instructions at him. And when they're shooting instructions to you and they know you, they work through it, and you hear them, but you don't receive the message. Because there's nothing, no matter what they say, it's not your night. You can't do anything. And I think that's what it was unfortunately, with Herring, he couldn't do it because he was trying. He was hitting little pot shots, and then he would come back with another shot. Oh yeah, that's what he really needs to do. And then Shakur is like, okay, well, let me slide back over here, and let me go here, and I'm gonna be over here. And even when I take a break, you still can't hit me. And I think John hit it right on the point with his movement, his ability to move away from punches and not get hurt says a lot. But yeah, when your corner tells you these things and they're saying it because they want to save you and they want you to be in a good place, and you simply can't deliver on the instructions, that lets you know as a fighter that you're in a bad place. And I think it was clear. Herring said, wow, man. And you could just see the look on his face like, yeah, okay, I'm trying. And they, no, man, you gotta get him. He got that dog in him, all this and that. And all of that extra energy, it still did not help him. And it did not resonate on into the ring. So that talk about a helpless feeling. Imagine as a fighter, they're telling you what you need to do. You get out there, you go, man, that sounds good, but right now, there's nothing I can do.
And
Frank, almost can I say something really fast? I just want to say it was the old speed kills. I think that was what it was too, is that he wanted to do it. He knew he was supposed to do it. He trained to do it, but Stevenson is so fast that it would be like, you walk outside and you don't see it. You get hit, boom, boom, boom. And he wasn't fast enough to respond. And then when he thought, okay, I got to do this, Stevenson's gone. So I think the speed, I think he was a little intimidated by the speed, which of course would make sense. It's just what, like Charles said, how would you feel? You guys know this playing basketball, you're playing against somebody who's fast, quicker than you. It's very intimidating. You got to try to find a way to even it out, and never found it.
Well, that's why they invented intentional fouls. But anyway, the idea, the idea being, he's sitting on the stool, and I think maybe I'm imagining this, but they showed the close up, and he kind of looked up like, that sounds all fine and good, but you ain't out there getting hit in the face. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, what do you? Yeah, great. Why don't you go out and do it?
You try it.
You try it. You sound like a good idea. Here's the belt. Here's the pants. Here's the gloves. You do it. Because whatever it wasn't going to work, and it wasn't. I mean, and again, we've seen Herring fight before, and I can't recall a fight of his that I've seen, maybe 3 or 4. And I went, this guy's, he's a slouch. I thought again, I understand we're moving up against another person and all that, but I never thought he would get just that beat down or that outclassed, I guess is a better word, because he was still in the fight physically. He just didn't have a chance to do anything. It's not like he was beaten up and he was, face was all caved and all that stuff.
Bloody and
quit hitting me, So, okay. So where does that, I guess, because we've been asking this question a while, Charles, where does that stick us with this guy who, I don't know if we had a place to slot him with that weight class, those people. Is he now one of the major players? Or people have to start looking for him like he's been seeking out other people? Shakur, I'm talking about.
I would say, yeah, but the one thing about it is the factor that he's still light, still young, right? To go after those players that you're talking about, the 135s, and particularly guys who now are 135 that soon will be moving to 140. We know that the Devin Haney's, he mentioned Tank Davis, Teofimo Lopez, guys like that, even Lomachenko, and so many others. We can just keep going on and on. But I think he's going to be moving up. I think in time he will move to get closer to them, but I don't think he's in a rush. I think you can see him maybe 130, 135 max right now, right? And he's young, he doesn't have to rush. As much as we would love to see him like the next 2 years. Oh yeah, we want to see one there, but it's like, no, I don't have to. If somebody's still at 135 when I get there, I'll see him. And I think that's the attitude. But he wants to clear out whatever it is going on at 130, right? and maybe get to 135 too, but clean that out. We know Mr. Oscar, we know what's going on over there. He wants that really bad. And he's going to take his time, which I think is a great thing. So let the other chips fall where they're made, because now things are coming out and the other guys are talking about moving up and maybe fighting this guy. And I think 2022 is going to be a year of cleaning up some things. And what I mean by that, there's going to be some fights that we've been wanting to see. And some people are going to start to go here, others are going to go here, and others are going to be like right here. So some things are going to start opening up. The beautiful thing about Shakur Stevenson is now that he has this legitimate so-called belt everybody's talking about he needed, he can sit back and watch. And he doesn't have to be a rush. Oh, I got to go to 135, or I got to do catch weight somewhere around 140. Nah, I'm a champion. Let's respect the champion.
Bring it to me, right?
That do something right here, and I'm gonna let the chips fall where they may. I'm gonna take my time, and when the time is right, I'll rise.
Well, John, one thing that we normally do, which we probably shouldn't do anyway, we speculate about things that we don't need to speculate about. But this is one of those things where we're in a situation now that we normally don't get into in these weight classes. You've got one guy that's usually seen as the guy, and then you got a bunch of other guys that are pretenders to the throne. Who is, if we don't have the tournament, which we'll get into something like that in a minute, if we don't have the tournament that Charles is always advocating for, who's the man? Who's the guy that everyone's got to point to right now in the 130 to 140 range?
Well, 130, Shakur already called him out. It's Valdez. I mean, he scored that great knockout over Berchelt last year, and Shakur knows that he's the number one guy really in the rankings. Shakur is number two. So he wants him, and he's wanted him for a while.
Right.
Oscar hasn't said all that much. Oh, he's not ready. He used the old excuses that they used over 100 years. Oh, he's not ready, blah, blah, blah. Well, you can't say that anymore. I mean, he's definitely ready. So it's going to depend on how badly now Shakur Stevenson puts pressure on Oscar Valdez. He doesn't have to as much anymore. If he really wants Oscar, then Oscar's not going to be able to sidestep him much longer. That's a mega fight. So maybe that's next year. Maybe that's what Charles is 2022. But he wants to fight all the guys. When he mentioned Tank, I went, oh God, yeah, jeez. And he could stay at 130, and those guys that we never hear about anymore because they don't fight anymore. If he wants to fight somebody that's got a great reputation, he could fight our favorite from LA, Leo Santa Cruz, at 130.
Yeah.
He could always fight Gary Russell. No, he could always fight Gary Russell Jr. I mean, if he wants, is what I'm saying. Since he's the man, you're not hearing those guys. Nobody's saying. You notice you don't hear anybody call him out.
Yeah.
Right.
So what does that say? Well, we know what that says. So he's just growing into his man body, Shakur, now. So you wait till he's 26. He'll be at 135 by then, I bet, and Teofimo won't be there. So he'll probably be chasing Teofimo for the next few years. But Haney will probably be there, and Ryan Garcia might or might not be there.
Right, there was going to say, right, yeah.
So, those are massive matchups. And they're all young, which I really like,
right.
So it will happen somewhere down the road. But if he wants to fight an older guy, if he wants to fight Lomachenko really bad. Now, would that be a great fight? Probably not. But man, it would be an exhibition of the sweet science. If you like that, like me, if you like all the angles and the thinking and the distance control and all that, I mean, that would be the professor and the pupil, and the pupil will probably beat the professor at this point. Mm-hmm. So he's got it all right there. What he wants to do, and that's an old cliche, but that was a star-making performance what he did last Saturday. That really put his name. And we thought that, we thought he's going to be primed, he's going to deliver, and he did. So it's all up to him now.
Well, Charles, I go back to the show that we did, I believe it was 2 years ago, on the 84 boxing team, and then that influx of new wave talent came out and kind of changed the landscape of what we were seeing, and we got a bunch of new players calling people out. It's kind of the same thing here right now, as John said. We've got in this 130 to 147 range, a bunch of new players in there that are, I don't know if I call them new, but younger players that are taking over, I think, the way we should be looking at boxing. So is this the new wave, or is this just kind of, it just happened?
I mean, I think it's a new wave, but it's a new wave in this particular area, right? I'm not sure if we're going to get that, the rest of the way through the other divisions of boxing, which makes this kind of unique because of the standpoint of the amount of talent, right? Which makes it exciting too, because we've had the welterweights for a minute when we had the Thomas Hearns and the Sugar Ray Leonards, right?
Right.
And then we also have, well, maybe they move up to fight Marvin Hagler, or then even with Roberto Duran, doing this thing. So with all that being said, I think what makes this amazing, and I think it's different and unique, is because of the factor that it's so new and so young, and young as in these younger guys, that it's like the optimism is just crazy, right? From
Right.
Josh Taylor at 140 to Gervonta Davis saying, okay, Teofimo Lopez saying, okay, I'm gonna fight this guy. And just goes on and on and on. And then down to the point where Tank Davis, and then also to the point of Shakur Stevenson. And then you look over to the side, you're like, well, Oscar said he's ready. And then you turn around, you go, okay,
right.
Well, here it is. And then we're not even talking about somebody popping up to 147 at some time, right? Because that's so far way out the way. Right. But even from 130 to 140, there's so many great, Boots Ennis is John's guy, and then just on and on and on to Haney. So with all of this talent sitting in there, 6-7 boxers that we could go from here to there and there. My biggest thing is we just need the first shoe to drop.
Yeah.
And we're talking about between injuries and stuff like that too. Haney's supposed to be fighting now, right? There'll be a replacement for the fight. So we just need the first shoe to drop. Then the next shoe drops. And then it just goes on and on and on. And hopefully we have something that carries us for 2 years, because that's what we need. If you're not going to give us a tournament, and that's okay, because everybody's into their feelings, into their own brand, and everything's whatever. Okay, I get that. You're not going to give us a tournament. Give us the fights. And I'll say this, listening to Terrence Crawford, maybe we're going to start to get that, because Terrence Crawford refuses to talk about what his plans are for future promotional next step in promotions, and whether or not he's going to resign. One thing he did say though, I just want to fight, man. And I think we're going to start to see more guys, once they get comfortable with who they are in their skin and where they are in their career, become more free agents, so they can go anywhere they want to. So hopefully, with that being said, we'll get these fights now, because that's what it's coming down to. You're watching the Canelo do his thing. Now you're saying, okay, Crawford doing his thing. Some of these other guys, even Tank Davis came out and says, I want to fight 3 of the rest of the 4 kings. And he said, I know my people say whatever and they control it, but I want these dudes. And with that being said, that's telling you, again, that we're looking for quality fights. The fighters want quality fights, and maybe it's time. That's what I'm hoping in 2022 is that change in the landscape, if you will, so we can get back to what's real and get back to real boxing.
2022, Richard Schaefer, what can you do?
Come call us, Richard. Call us, baby. We need you.
He's doing a ton. He's signing everybody. He says,
right.
Boy.
Now, okay, so we did this with Fury Wilder, and we said, okay, we're going to take this weekend off. Now, again, we mentioned Boots Ennis and a couple other guys that are fighting, and a couple of these, regular belts and stuff like that. All right, but let's get down to brass tacks here. It may not be what we want, or maybe there's no what we want in this, but we're getting the guy that we want. And Charles mentioned the free agency thing. Canelo Alvarez has set himself up to do what he wants to do, how he wants to do it, when he wants to do it. And he's going to do it barring any unforeseen circumstances. He's going to do it not this weekend, but next weekend. John, is this the guy? is this really, are we going to see the guy that we go, yeah, we've been waiting on this guy because he's the man? Or is it just he's the man at the time because there's no one else taking the mantle?
Oh yeah, he's the man right now, no doubt about it. And he's extremely good. And we watched him improve, and he's always going to have a little blemish because, you know, I tend, even though I get mad at myself, I tend to read some of the comments of what people say about him. And he has so much animosity on social media because of the meat thing before the Golovkin rematch. People are convinced he's been juicing for years. And that's what caused the Plant fight to be delayed, because he was cycling down. And was he on VADA? And then I checked, he is on VADA. So that's unfortunate, because Canelo Alvarez, the thing that I love that he does, he's like my man Navarrete. He fights a lot. And that's what boxing is supposed to be. You know, in our day, we fight 4, 5, 6 times a year. These guys fight once a year and then they disappear. And that's no way to build an audience, you know, doing a once a year like that. So Canelo, yeah, he is undoubtedly the man. He's can't miss. He's got a guy who's very determined, an old Sweet Hands Caleb Plant. And I'm looking forward to that fight. People are moaning and groaning about it, but you know, hey, he's another champion. We've got 1 million belts out there right now. We've discussed that 1 million times, but I think it's a good fight. And I think Canelo is positioning himself to be fighter of the year again, just because he fights so much.
Right.
You know, and that is a key. I mean, it's like any sport. You guys know this. The more you do it, you stay sharp. You know, as long as you don't get stale in training or whatever. But his life is boxing, and he's trying to set a legacy. He's trying to be the unified 168-pound champion, and then he might move up and fight a light heavyweight after that. So yeah, Canelo is the man. He learned a lot by watching other guys doing what they're doing, and what he's doing with this free agency thing, where he does one fight with this, and then maybe he'll go with this Eddie Hearn one more time. He's controlling everything. They're not controlling him. He's controlling everything.
Right.
Anyway, just on a golf reference, I watched All Access. He's turning into a damn good golfer too, Frank. I watched him hitting balls. I'm like, holy moly, he's getting good. He loves golf because it's such a challenge. And so he's the top. He's the king of the mountain right now.
Well, for those of you that did not like Canelo Alvarez, you have another reason not to like him. I don't like good golfers because I'm not one. Okay, now, Charles, we're on to something here. Well, that's exactly it. Sure. Okay. Now, we said, and when we got to Canelo fighting Mayweather, we said, well, he's still green, he's still young, blah, 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 blah. What has he learned since then? But if I can find my spot here, looking back before he fought Mayweather, he still had fought a few people. He'd gone through Shane Mosley, Kermit Cintron, Josecito Lopez, Austin Trout. He walked through some people before he got to Mayweather. So he wasn't green when he got there, right? So he learned from Mayweather, Matthew Hatton, a couple other guys, Lovemore Indu. He just didn't show up. And then let's look at the guys he
showed up.
Yeah, Golovkin 1,700 times. Cotto again, Amir Khan, Liam Smith. I mean, it's not like he's Callum Smith, Kovalev, Billy Joe Saunders. It's not like he hasn't fought anybody. Daniel Jacobs. With the amount of experience he has, you know, we don't see a guy with 56 fights, 56 wins anymore. That's unheard of now. You're lucky to get 26 wins when you're at this level. The amount of experience that he has, the people he's gone through, and we'll ignore some of the Golovkin wins, losses, draws, whatever they were, controversial calls. But are we looking at one of the best? And again, we're going to say this before he actually fights next week. You know, are we looking at one of the best fighters of all time? Now, we'll give you your NBA 75 reference. You can go. He can be included on that list. We're not saying he's the number one. Is he one of the best fighters of all time?
I think you had to say yes because of the time, right? I mean, it's hard to take away what he's doing. It's kind of like, you know, the Larry Holmes syndrome, not to compare him anything to Larry Holmes.
Right,
but
I understand.
When you're solid in your time and you're dominant in your time and you're doing it your way, as much as it may frustrate the hell out of some boxing fans that he goes up to 168 and he's clearing this out, and nobody's really believing that these guys are really that talented on the level that you expected him to be challenged by, regardless of that factor. A lot of these guys were undefeated. Coming in, they were getting the respect you thought they deserved because they were winning belts. So therefore, you got to give him his due. So for his time, yes, he's compiling a record, a legacy that is going to make you go, damn, he was very good. He's very good for his time. He was dominant. You can say what you want to. I mean, after Floyd Mayweather gave him a lesson. You go back, every time I see clips of that fight, I was like, oh my God. It was like, you talk about going to school.
Right.
He went to anybody that wants to see a boxing lesson and want to see how much Canelo improved, go back and watch the Floyd Mayweather fight. Floyd, you might love or hate Floyd Mayweather, you will see his greatness in that fight. And Canelo was young, but he was no pushover. He really was legit. But with all that being said, I think you had to get back to your question. Definitely, he's one of the greatest right now. You have to say greatest of all time because he's dominating his time. And I think that's good enough. Don't ask me for a number where he is or nothing like that. But in regards to whether or not he's one of the greatest of all time, if we stopped everything right now and we throw him in history, you had to, because he's done it and he continues to do it until somebody shuts him down. And even though, my last point on this, it has been done strategically lately, following the footsteps of some other individuals, regardless of how much strategy played a part in it, it's still recognizable and it's also commendable because it's impressive.
Well, now then, this is the thing. Exactly, we're looking at something, and we use the caveat of who he's fought in his time because that's all he can do. But is it because of him, John, that his time doesn't look as good? Because let's look at Caleb Plant with that same lens. You know, getting to this fight, Jose Uzcategui, Mike Lee, Caleb Truax, title fights. You know, maybe not household names, but guys that can go out and bang a little bit. Is it that they look not as good in comparison because the comparison is too great and the light shines brighter on this guy, or is it this is a downtime for this weight class?
It's a little bit of both, you know. I mean, Caleb Plant. See, the reason people don't think he earned this is because of the names you just mentioned, Frank. No doubt about it. But if you go back and watch how he won these fights, he dominated. So I think he's got talent. Definitely, I think he's got more. He's got good, solid talent, and he's fast. He can box, and guys that can box can give Canelo little issues. Even Canelo said, I expect this to be a tough fight. So it's hard because it is what it is right now. The 168 division is maybe a little weaker now than it was. But I'm not going to take anything away from Canelo because those names you were mentioning, people forget that. I mean, he was fighting most of the best guys of his time and beating them all, excluding Charlos and all that stuff it's been bugging us whenever they never. I suppose they keep saying, yeah, I'm going to fight Charlo. It never happens. Maybe it'll happen next year. I hope, just so that we don't have to talk about it anymore. It's a little bit of both. But you know, it's like I always think about Rocky Marciano. You know, oh well, all these guys were old when well, that's not his fault. Right. He was fighting all the guys that they put in front of him, and as Charles said very wisely, strategically. They definitely had a plan. That's another reason people don't like him. They used to say when he was younger that he was very protected. Look at his resume and, well, he fought Shane Mosley. He was past his prime. Well, he fought Josecito Lopez. He was a welterweight. Well, that's true. But he still had to beat those guys. Right. And he beat them bad. Yeah, he beat them bad. And when he fought Floyd Mayweather, I didn't think he was going to win, but he tried his hardest, and he brought at that time everything he had, and Floyd's just a master boxer. You know, you're not gonna beat Floyd. No, you're not. No one ever did.
Well, so why would you think you could? Right.
Right. He had to, I admired him for trying. I didn't think he's going to win. I had some friends who loved Canelo, and he's not going to beat Floyd Mayweather. No way, unless he happens to catch him. He was outclassed. Talk about that word, outclassed. Completely outboxed. The fact that it was a split decision was ridiculous. Mm-hmm. You know, he won like 3 or 4. I don't know, 3 or 4. I can't even remember. I need to watch again. 2 rounds, 3 rounds at the most. But the main point is what Charles said, that you talk about going to a class and learning and retaining things.
Right.
And I think he thanked him before. I think Canelo thanked Floyd Mayweather before for that, because he didn't get beat up that bad. He obviously lost. He got hit with a lot of lead right hands like everybody who fights Floyd does. But he learned about head movement and how to use the ring and how to fight strategically and all that. Even though he'd had all those fights, he'd never been in with anybody like that. Mm-hmm. And if you allow yourself, I think in any sport, that's how you learn, is when you're in there with somebody who's better than you. You watch them and you go, oh, I see how he did that. I never thought of that. And so he owes Floyd a big thanks. I think he did years ago, thanked him. But you know, he's fighting everybody he can. And if he moves, let's finish up with this, Frank. He might get a lot more respect from the people who don't like him, the naysayers, if he moves up to fight Beterbiev. Mm-hmm. He fights that monster at 175 pounds. That guy is a beast.
Yeah.
He moves up and fights him at 175. And you remember, Canelo fought at 154 for a long time. He was even a welterweight for a while. He's not a big guy. He's only like 5'8".
Yeah.
You move up to 175 and fight that monster and beats him. That might be the only way that's a fight he could lose, because that guy is just so tough. But Beterbiev has been wobbled in his last couple of fights, so a lot of intrigue.
Well, we look at it. Yeah, we look at it as, you know, the Bulls had to figure out how to beat the Celtics before they could move on. The Pistons had to figure out how to beat the Bulls before they moved on. I know for you people that are under the age of 80, you don't understand what we're talking about. But the idea being, in order to beat the man, you've got to beat the man who the man beat. You got to get there first. So, Charles, we're looking at when Canelo fought Mayweather, and we say, yes, he learned a lot. Great. He learned, of course, why wouldn't you learn from the master? But in 49 or 50 or whatever fights you want to call it, who else learned anything from Mayweather and then put on this career after that? Pretty much after you fought Mayweather, your career was done. It wasn't ascending at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's true. But I think that you got to look at the youth of Canelo at the time, right? How old was Canelo at that time? He was like really super young.
23, something like that. Yeah, really young.
You're like, it's like you go into battle and you're fighting this seasoned veteran, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, now I'm going to go back out to the rest of my career. I think that really played a major part. Plus, two, the other part with Canelo is he knew that he would never see anybody like that ever in his life again, perhaps. You know, and I think that plays a part. When you've seen the best, and you're like, well, hell, is anybody else gonna ever be like that? I don't think so.
The rest is gonna be easy, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So the rest of it is like, okay, well, I know I fought the best. I went back now. I found out what I can do. I look back and made the adjustments. And then I also gonna throw some of his own wrinkles, like moving, being other places people expect me to be, being more forceful because I can get out of the way of things. And then if they're bigger than me now, I'm faster than you in a way, and I can hit you with different kind of shots. Now you're seeing Canelo with using more angles to throw punches. And
right.
If you see that some of the boxers he fought at 168 were really like slow. And what I mean by that, not like they were like mummies, but some people just don't have natural quickness, right?
Right.
And Canelo took advantage of a lot of that, and guys just couldn't get out of the way, and he outquicked them oftentimes. But to get to your point is, I don't think we've really seen anybody like that. One, because I think of the age, and I think the way that a lot of the people that perhaps would have caused Canelo some problems have moved out the way. They moved on out of the scene. So he was a newer guy coming into this domain. Even if you go back to you mentioned about Daniel Jacobs, right? You mentioned about Triple G. Shakur Stevenson was an older cat. You go down the line. What was it? The guy's name from Texas that he beat up. Oh man, I can't think of it.
Kirkland, James Kirkland.
Not Kirkland. There was
James
another
Kirkland,
guy.
yeah.
The guy, he's from Texas, I think, but he has he's around off and on. Anyway, but he was a guy that was supposed to be around for a while. He beat him. So I guess my point of it is, you're a young guy. You beat some of the so older has-beens, guys, if you will, guys older. Now you're going into this new area. You have this information that not many of your younger or same age counterparts have. Now you can go through because you've seen the best. And if you do it right, you've seen the best. Now there are some other people that can really challenge him. You know, we always throw about Triple G, but you know, that ship was almost sailed. And you talk about moving it up to 75 with 175 with better be there. Okay, well, that's another launch. But we also know the one fight that everybody wants to see fight is Jamar Charlo. And we might be closer than that than we think. Because now I think watching Charlo, Canelo says, I see something. I see some flaws. And I think I'll fight him. In fact, Canelo has mentioned that he would fight, more likely to fight Charlo than he would Benavidez. Because he doesn't respect Benavidez. Not like that. He just doesn't. It's like, okay, you kind of like Andre, right? You just over here. You not you all right. You good. Yeah, you're not on that level. But I do see Charlo, and Charlo can make me money. So I can see Charlo at 168 or a catchweight, whatever. I can see him at 168. So I'm in between 168 and 175. But to get back to your point, I've taken the knowledge, I moved forward, I gotten better, and I'm ready to move forward. The other thing on your point, I'm not sure when it came to Floyd Mayweather, there were too many younger folks that dared to step up and challenge him.
Right.
Not at the age of 22, 23, because a lot of them have not been that, they were not ready. Were they that talented? Were they ready for that challenge? So that's the other part. So he has all that going on, and that I think that's what it was, because when Floyd fought all the guys from Sugar Shane Mosley, Cotto, was a Madonna. These are older guys, they're aging guys. Nobody's 23 and you're fighting Floyd Mayweather? Who does that? I mean, unless you're a really top-notch guy, but name me another guy, and John, help me with this. Is there another guy that you would have the kahunas to step in the ring with one of the greatest fighters of all time? 23? And survive?
And thrive afterwards too.
Yeah, I'm not, because my memory's not as great as it was, but I'm not. I mean, okay, if you this is a funny one. The guy behind you, right now. The guy behind Charles, he stepped in with Sonny Liston. Basically, nobody thought he could beat him, and what did he do? Yeah.
Right.
So there you go.
But name me some. Give me four more, John.
4 more.
Yeah, I mean,
Leon Spinks.
Give me 4 days.
Right, but I guess my point of it is that's why it's special, right? I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's why it's special. So when it's done, and guys like that, even if they lose, are able to move on and still be great because of what they experienced, it says a lot. So it's not something, I guess my point to all that was, it's not something that you said we see regularly. So when we do see it with Ali, AKA Cassius Clay, you appreciate it. Even to the point of, let's look at a George Foreman. I don't want to get too far off the point, Frank, but you look at George Foreman, who was Mr. Everything as a heavyweight as far as the Olympics, right? But it took him a little time to get to where he was. And yeah, after destroying Frazier and losing to Ali, did he ever get to where we expect him to see? You know what I'm saying? As far as the dominance, it just wasn't there. We don't know why or whatever. That's why I guess my point of what the strategy that Canelo's implying right now, whatever he's doing, he's in a great place. Because I can go to 168 and I can fight Charlo. I can go 175, make more money cash. Wherever it's at, it's a no-lose situation unless he takes an L. He's in the perfect position. And I control my own promotion rights. I mean, damn, he's the king of boxing right now.
Well, the thing that I think is interesting, we collectively, we say he's ducking this guy, he's ducking that guy, and all that, which may or may not be true. I don't think that he is, but you know, saying that, you know, what have you done? What have you done for me lately? What can you prove that you deserve a shot at this ring? Because here's what I did. I fought Mayweather. I fought Mosley. I fought this guy. I fought Amir Khan. I fought all these guys to get here. Now you have to do the same thing of what I did. And you're looking at guys that, you know, we say that, you know, Sugar Ray Leonard ducked Hagler. Okay, but he also fought Benitez. He also fought Hearns. He also fought Leonard. He fought the guys to get there. And when he got to that point, now I'm king of the heap. I can decide who I want to fight. That's the thing that I think is different that we're not seeing and we're not talking about. It's not that he's ducking anybody, but he's like, hey, you have to go through the same thing I had to go through to get here. You just can't say, I want to fight the best. Sure, I had to fight guys to get here too. I had to take whatever fight was in front of me. I had to fight Arislan Delari. I had to fight this guy.
Austin Trout. Austin Trout.
Austin Trout, right.
I was talking about earlier. Yeah,
Austin Trout,
right.
yeah.
Austin Trout, okay, right. Yeah, I had to fight Liam Smith. I had to fight this guy. They kept throwing them at me. Now I get to choose like the guys ahead of me got to choose. So I don't think that he's doing anything wrong. Would I like to see Charlo? Yeah. Would I like to see Benavidez? Of course. But I see what he's saying. It's like, I had to go, I'm 56 and whatever the hell, right? I'm not only sitting here on the throne and I'm, you know, 25 and 2. 56. I had to fight a lot of guys to get here. You should have to do the same. Am I off base with that, John, or is that kind of the mindset?
Well, it's complicated because
something completely different.
I mean, he started when he was 15. He turned pro when he was 15. So he was fighting a lot, and nowadays that just isn't the thing. I mean, that's old school again. You know, and I did think of someone else who got beat and then came back better, and that was Joe Louis. When Max Schmeling stopped him, he came back a better fighter. He got bad. He got knocked out, but he was better after that. He learned he was making some mistakes, and he fixed them. So it does happen, but you know, there isn't anybody like Canelo in that sense, just because unless you're talking about a Manny Pacquiao who had all those fights, because he started when he was 15. So when you start that young, you know, you're going to have nowadays, you're going to have those that many fights, but most guys 19, 20, and then by the time they're 30, like Shakur, we just mentioned he's 24, right? He's got 17 fights. So if you figure 10 years from now, he might have what, 30, like Charles was saying, and that'll be it. That's a lot. 13 more fights in 10 years for nowadays.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I mean,
you're going to fight more than once a year, right?
My friend Randy Shields fought 18 times in 1 year. 18 times. So, I mean, it's hard to take a lot of this seriously because these guys they don't fight. I know it's mind-blowing. Yeah. Mind-blowing. And it wasn't just him. That was Armando Muniz fought 12 times in a year. It was
signing contracts from a hospital bed, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Guy I talked to yesterday, Adrian Arreola, he fought like 10 times in 1 year. I mean, you know, they're fighting they're fighting every month, every 2 months. That was at the Olympic. You know, that was common in the 70s.
Right.
They didn't get a break after you got stopped. You know, you were back in a month later. I mean, and then before that, it was worse. You know, Sugar Ray Robinson, before that, Harry Greb, he's fighting every 3 days.
Oh my God.
Training camp. I don't have to worry about training
camp. I will
fight.
Right?
I'm fighting next week. Yeah, right.
Yeah, 245 fights. You know, it's crazy. Yeah. So it's so different now, and Canelo is different in that sense again. But so it's hard to compare him with some of these guys, and I don't think they understand him in that way you're talking about, Charles or Frank, because he did come from nothing. You know, when you watch these shows on him and everything, he came from a fighting family, and his brothers were pretty good, but he had nothing. He came from nothing and built himself up to what he is. So he's a great success story. So I can understand where he'd feel like, you know, I'm the guy now. I'm calling the shots, and if I want to fight somebody that you don't approve of, tough. I earned it, right? So I mean, I understand that as a human being. But he probably has this idea, and as I'm just speculating, he can't please everybody. So he fights who he fights. if people are still clamoring him for to fight Triple G, I hope that fight never comes. That isn't even a challenge for him anymore. I think Triple G 40 years old. No, Charlo called out Triple G a couple days ago, Charles.
Yeah, I saw that.
Fine. If they want to fight, I don't even know if Golovkin's around anymore. You don't even hear. Remember, I was kidding about him, putting him on a milk carton. I haven't even heard anything. I haven't heard anything from Jonathan Banks. Well, I mean, I don't know what's going on with Golovkin. But yeah, Canelo's got it all his way right now, and he earned it.
Here's how that plays out. Pretty simple. Okay, if you're the guy matchmaking, you say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We'll make that fight because I don't have to pay Golovkin as much. He's got an AARP card. We can get a discount for that, no problem at all.
Not that old, Frank.
There's supposed to be a soundtrack there, a laugh track someplace. Hit the soundtrack, Frank.
More grown.
Now, all right. Now, we've got a week to get into this. So when we come back next week, we're going to have things to say about Caleb Plant. What that will be, I don't know. This is your challenge. This is your research. Those of you that are watching this, give us something to talk about Caleb Plant about. Because to tell you the truth, yeah, we don't really, I mean, we know who he is, who he's fought, but let's be honest, this is a Canelo show. Now, the question is, he has a belt, Caleb Plant. Can he make this into the Caleb Plant show? That is the thing that we have to see. Because all this sounds all fine and good and all wonderful and hunky-dory and rainbows and puppy dogs. But if he gets in the ring and it's decidedly over in the first 90 seconds, like, now, see, here we go again. Can he put up a fight? Can he make it look like he's a challenger? Can it look like he has a chance to actually win the fight? And the thing that we look at in the pantheon of sports and all that, the undefeatable, unbeatable, world-shaking Kansas City Chiefs now look like the Kansas City Chiefs of 5 years ago. What? Wow. I mean, it went from, oh my goodness, to what in the hell is that? It happens, it happens that the mighty have to fall at some point. So is it the point where Canelo, we haven't seen him necessarily, he fights quite often, but we haven't seen him have to rise to the occasion in a while, since one of the last Golovkin fights, that maybe he can't rise to the occasion if Caleb Plant does something. Charles, this is our thing here. We have to figure this out by next week. What does Caleb Plant have to do? Not saying right now, but what would you think, just off the top of your head, Caleb Plant has to do to say, I'm not just here for you guys to have the circus. I'm here to be the ringmaster.
I think John kind of said it earlier about movement, right? If I'm him, I'm thinking about movement. And then I'm also thinking about one thing I do. I'm going back and watch that Floyd tape. Anyway, I'm serious, because a lot of the stuff that you had to have movement, and then you have to not be there. And my last point on this would be, you have to be able to deliver punishment when it's available. So if you get a shot, you can't go you got to make it count. And I think that's a great strategy to start off with. I know we'll talk about it more, but right there, I think that's how it's lined up.
John, what do you think? I know I don't normally do this, but we're going to ask the same question. And your thoughts, John?
For Canelo, see, I think Canelo is talking about how it's being personal now, because you saw the thing that happened at the press conference, and Canelo doesn't like anybody to say that he's juicing. So he's turning into Jordan, where he's finding ways to motivate himself. So I think he'll be there. Here we go again with my Andre Ward plug. Andre has been in Plant's camp, advising him. And hell, I would say, oh, please, because Andre, a very cerebral guy, very smart guy in the ring, very smart guy outside the ring, very good commentator. I think I read that he said, not totally kind of opposite of what I said and what Charles, in the sense that, well, sort of, that he needs, well, yes and no. He needs to get, meaning Plant, Canelo's respect. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about, you got to bully the bully. You got to make him hesitate. And that's how you beat him. And that's what Andre was saying. He said when he fought Kovalev or whatever, he wasn't thinking about what a big puncher he was. He was obviously aware of it. He had to get his respect. And obviously he did it. But that's him. Andre's a dog, as we know. So whether Plant can get his respect and get Canelo out of his game is going to be the key. And his speed, we remember what Amir Khan did to Canelo. Remember? Amir Khan, for 4 rounds, at least won 3 of them, and got knocked out in the 5th. He was actually winning the fight.
He was winning the fight, right?
So I still think, find your spots to do what Andre's saying, but move. You move, you box, because, like, again, what Charles said about Mayweather, that's how Mayweather beat him. So you go to you roll the tape where it worked against Canelo. You watch that. Daniel Jacobs had some success against him. What did he do? That take all of that, you figure out your game plan, and he's young, he's fast, he's got fast hands, so of course he's live.
Now we're going to end this on this note, because when we normally say something about an organization in a not so flattering way, I'll let Charles run this because this is part of his idea. The WBA has decided to have a heavyweight tournament. I don't know.
Stole Charles's idea.
Yeah. So, is this something that just like, well, huh? Or is it okay? Let's see what they actually do.
Yeah, see what they do. But they've been listening. They know what's going on. I mean, there's a lot going on in the waves. But I mean, it just makes sense. It makes sense if you really want to. The one thing we know, the majority of them anyway, probably 75% of the time when they've had these tournaments, they've worked wonders. Okay, right. You either see that there's a dominant individual that we always expected to be, right, or we find some gem. I'm not saying he was on the trash heap or nothing like that, but you see a sparkling diamond at the bottom of the pile, aka Andre Ward. I mean, it's what it was coming into the Super 6. Nobody, except for John, thought he had a chance in hell. Nobody, granted, despite what he had accomplished as an amateur, nobody really thought he had a chance in hell of winning the whole thing. No, they didn't. Again, except for John, but he did it, and that's what makes the tournament amazing. And I think that's what it is. That's why I like the idea of a tournament.
Now, would this have happened, John, if we didn't have Usyk upsetting Joshua?
I was going to mention Usyk. He's another guy that fought in a tournament, won it, and that was his springboard to the bigger fights.
Right.
The WBA, of course, has a notorious history for tournaments, as we know. They stripped Cassius Clay, aka Muhammad Ali,
right,
and had their tournament, and that's how Joe Frazier ended up winning the New York State Heavyweight Championship, and that's how they had a lot of good fighters. Jimmy Ellis and Jerry Quarry and Floyd Patterson were in that tournament. So they have, and you know what? I agree with Charles. The WBA is also eliminating a lot of their ridiculous belts. The lightweight bathroom champion. They're getting rid of they're getting all the interim and they're getting rid of those belts. So they've been listening. They want to be taken seriously. So they said they are, so we'll have to see on this tournament. But I'm with you, Charles. Every tournament that I've ever watched, and the Super 6 was a prime example of when a tournament is ran well, why it's exciting. It's like a basketball tournament, like March Madness. You keep moving on, and then it builds up the suspense. Ooh, that guy won it. Now they're going to fight each other. And they were fighting, and it was a constant. It was all the time. It was every few months. So right now, that would be the best thing for boxing, because that would at least mean that we would have good fights more often than we do. And, well, yeah, we'll just have – WBA obviously has a very reputation. So hopefully, I'm going to just take a wait-and-see attitude on this, but I'm hopeful.
Well, and the interesting thing about that, Charles and I, when we were doing the internet radio, whatever the hell we were doing, and we were just kind of plugging along, we did the all-time NCAA tournament, or at least the last 30 years tournament bracket thing, and our viewership skyrocketed in a matter of a week or two. because people enjoy that bracket format, that, like you said, John, with that concept of who's going to play who or whom, and at the end of the day or end of the week or end of the month, you didn't win unless you won. You know, you didn't get a draw and get back. You had to
win or go home.
Yeah, which is why we love sudden death overtime and extra innings and all that stuff. So I'm going to throw this one last kernel of BS out there that I've heard, and we'll each of you give me a minute on, and we'll see what happens.
Where's my watch?
Clock is started. It's on the site. Oh, I got the app going. Okay. Now, Charles, since you're first here, I read someplace, and I don't know if it's a legitimate thing. Yes, I actually do read on occasion.
Wow.
Well, you know, it was on the whatever, but you know, had the phone on the toilet with me and anyway. But anyhow, the idea of either having an odd number of rounds or having an extra round after a draw has been declared.
Sudden death round, you mean, like sudden death
round? Yeah. I don't know who came up with the idea, but any thoughts on whether one of those things are better than another?
Wow, sudden death round. No. I don't like either one of them, because I think part of it is this is not football, right? The other part of it too is one of the things within my minute. The other things a lot of people didn't like is a lot of people didn't. Yeah, well, not even that. Anyway, but a lot of people were not feeling the factor that you knew the score before the fight was over, right?
Right.
I mean, you don't want to know that, because it's like, well, what did you see? Would you see that? So we don't like that. And I think it will require that. And I think the beauty of it is what we think we see is not always what judges see. And still at the end of the day, it is their perspective as to what they saw. Some of them get it horribly wrong. But the beauty about boxing is, let's see who we think really won the fight and who was best. But the point of it is, we accept boxing the way that it is. I don't think an extra inning or an extra bout or whatever is going to do any good. It's kind of like saying the non-ending baseball game, right? So it never kept going on and on. So we called it a tie. I mean, we maybe never get there. The beautiful thing about boxing, my last point is, it has an end.
Right.
It has an end. And then that's what it always is, has an end. Now, figure out who won.
Yeah, okay. John? I've done it.
No, I agree. I don't like those ideas. I think that's why you have a rematch. You know, and that's why you have the great trilogies, why boxing separates itself. What makes boxing unique from the other sports is that you have this, and they fight 12 rounds and it's a draw, and you say, oh man, let's do this again in 3 months, like we've got Chocolatito and Austrada coming up third time.
Right.
And that's what much makes boxing different. You know, and like I said, unique. So no, that won't work. There's a part of me that wishes that, because of the historical element of it, that boxing would go back to 15 rounds. You know, I really like that, because that is where a lot of fights are decided, is later in the fight. But then again, that's the dangerous part of boxing too. Duku Kim and Benny Kid Perret, right? I mean, they died, right, because of the lateness of the fights. But so I understand that. But no, boxing is too raw and too warrior-like to start throwing all these nowadays things at it. You know, you got a first round and a last round, and that's it. And then if we want to do this again in 4 months, let's do it.
Well, my only take on it is this. I understand why we went from 15 to 12 for the safety factor. I get that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't see, if you could do it and understand that it's been, you do all your math and all that, I wouldn't mind a 13th round, but you can still get a draw in 13 rounds. That doesn't matter. You know, it depends on what happens. You get a point deducted for a low blow, another knockdown, it still can end up being a draw. So I don't think the extra round makes it better mathematically. Someone with more math skills than I am going to have to figure that out. The other part of I don't understand what the logistics of the extra round would be. So you'd have to have that score tabulated and done at the end of the 12th round, and someone would have to notify you, hey, it ain't over yet. What? Huh? You gotta find another round. I mean, as you're on the stool at the end of the round, it's not like, all right, fight's over. Nope, fight's not over. So sit back down. You know, you would have to change the whole dynamic of how you do things in order to make that work. And it could be done. It could be done, but how are you going to know? Like Charles said. So I know at the end of 9, I have to win these last 3 rounds. Okay. Well, then did I win them? I don't know. Then you come at the end, go, nope, you made it. You made a draw. Let's go fight another round. You've got all these guys who are active, then they're inactive. Clear the ring, put them back out there again. I can't imagine how you would do that. So I understand that people are trying to figure something out. I understand how frustrating it is when there is a draw. When you're like, I thought my guy won, or I thought that other guy won, or he lost, or whatever. But as you said, John, that's part of boxing.
Can I throw one thing in there? One last thing?
Go ahead, please.
I think the last caveat I would say on is, if you're going to say you're going to want to add something new, a new wrinkle, who knows? We were against overtime in football for the longest time, right? But I would look at the NFL. So if that's the case, then my point would be make it a 10-round bout, right? So therefore, a 10-round bout. And then if it's not decided by 10 rounds, you say to yourself, okay, we're going to 11, right? We got another one. Okay, that don't work. The max we're going is 12, right? It's kind of like NFL. It's like, okay, but you're not going to 15 rounds. So the safety part of it is still okay. So we started with 10, but the max we go is 12. So do you want that extra little overtime thing you're talking about? Of course, you had to change the scoring and learn from there, then do it in that standpoint. Stay within the perimeters of the health conscious situation, but then say, okay, we got room after 10. We know, tabulate the scores. We got to draw. And then you get into the point which make even bizarre, more crazier and whatever, and nobody's ever going to say no. You say, all right, guys, we're in the corner, talk to the fighters. Hey, we got to draw. This is a draw. But if you want to, we can fight another 2 rounds or another round. What say you? Or you just want to say, or no, you just say, hey, you have a choice. You're like, no, I'm good. I just wait for the rematch. That will make it intriguing, because are you as a fighter, do you want to fight, or you good with what you got? Because you never expect to win anyway. Now we got the intrigue and the crowd goes crazy and the rest of the boxing world is turned on its head. But now we got intrigue, which is what we love in boxing.
Well, see, what I don't want to see is the soccer thing of, okay, now we've done all this, sudden death shootout or whatever. It's like, really? But everyone, I elect to receive and I get to punch him first? I mean, what do you do? I don't get it. So there are so many different factors, and I like that idea. But John, as a golfer, I'm going to throw it this way. And I'm going to get my tournament mixed up, and I apologize. Either the U.S. Open or the PGA. I'm not sure. And maybe they've changed it around since then. But if the score's tied at the end of 72, you go back to hole number 1. It used to be you went back and played a whole nother day. You go back Monday and play the whole round again, another round. But you go back.
Yeah, U.S. Open did that. Yeah.
Yeah, and you play 3 holes.
18 holes.
Winner at the end of the 3 holes. Yeah, but now I think they shortened it to 3 holes. So you play 3 holes and you go from there. So what Charles is saying, I like the extension to say, okay, we at the end of 10, we're to draw. We're going to throw 3 more rounds at you. But again,
well, the only thing I was thinking, if you're the guy in the corner and they're like, okay, the fight is a draw, you want the rematch or do you want to fight this guy again? Boxing is the ultimate machismo sport. I don't think there's a guy in the world who's going to say, no, I want the rematch. Because everyone will go, you coward, everybody would be ready. So,
hey, you know what?
Pressure would be just.
Hey, but look at it this way though, real quick, John. If that's the case, somebody might be thinking, hell, I came in a champion. And look, hey, we gotta eat. We gotta stay one more time. I got another 6 months. We're gonna do the rematch.
Right.
I mean, now the money comes into the place. The machismo thing is one thing, but you lose your title and you got a chance to walk away with draw and still endorsements. I mean, I hear you, but on the other end, His wife was like, you better just walk her out of there.
Yeah, I think 99% of the fighters would go the extra round, even if they were in bad shape at the end of the 10th round and they were hurt. They'd go with the 11th because they wouldn't want anybody yelling that they're cowards.
True.
See, here's again. I know we said a minute. It's been 10 minutes since it. Here's what I see happen. All right, so at the end of that last round, the guys come back, inflicted a lot of punishment, and now he has got himself to the point where they're to draw. Now, while you're tabulating all this stuff, it's going to be hard to get all that done in a minute. So the other guy that was just been getting the crap kicked out of him for the last 3 rounds now has a chance to recuperate. While the one guy, lactic acid and all that stuff, now you've got to, I mean, how do you keep them in fight mode while you're determining all the logistics of what happens? Now, I'm sure you can figure it out.
You have to tabulate it while it's going and be on the fly.
What's going on? Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's on the fly. That would be the only way. And
so something I read actually made me think about something.
Really?
I'm doing that more often.
You're not much of a thinker.
Well, I don't really do that too much. So, all right, we are done with the Ultimate Sports Network's Real Boxing Talk, Talking Boxing and stuff like that. You can find us here, there, everywhere. We have a lot of fun doing this. Like I said, I think I have to do the math. I think we're in year 3 now. So, or we're in past year 3. So, and we've almost without fail, maybe like 4 or 5 times we've missed a week. So it's been pretty.
Frank, are we going to get renewed? Is our ratings good enough to be renewed for season 4? That's next year, right?
You know what? We're going to see what Netflix has to say about this.
Oh.
I'm not sure. Well, we're like the cartoons that are on. Yeah. Do we get season 4? Do we get season 5? I think we'll be okay, but I'll have to talk to the powers that be and we'll figure it out.
The 9 viewers will be very unhappy if we don't come back for season 4.
I know. There'll be a picket. I understand that. So, guys, thanks again, folks. We will see you later. We will have actual information next week about what we think is going to happen with the I'm going to say Caleb Canelo fight. We're going to give Caleb a little love before
the boys,
because I have a feeling we're not going to give too much. Yeah, we're not going to give him too much afterwards, unfortunately. So anyway, thanks again.